Didn't we just hear this? That was the thought I had when I began trying to figure out what I was going to preach on this Sunday. Like, really, lectionary? You put two different Epiphany stories back to back between 2 Sundays, and there really wasn't much to preach on in the Old Testament or the Epistle either. Basically, Isaiah is once again saying the people of Israel will be raised up out of the oppression that they were in and become a light to the nations, a good source to the nations. Then Paul basically is opening his letter. There really isn't much there other than, I'm Paul, I'm talking to you, grace and peace, standard letter opening. Thank you all for being awesome. Which is good, you know. Of course, he goes on to lambast them quite a bit later on, especially when certain individuals were sleeping with their stepmom. It gets really weird in Corinth, but so, well, it's true. So I thought, okay. Then I started looking more closely, and I was like, wait a minute. There's some discrepancies between the Gospels in this story. So let's look at that for a minute there. So, in this Gospel, John the Baptist claims never to have known who Jesus was until he saw him. But wait a minute, aren't they cousins? At least in Luke's Gospel. Also, did it ever say that John actually baptized Jesus in this Gospel? No. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. What in the world? And then Simon and Andrew, in the Synoptic Gospels, what were they? Fishermen. And where did Jesus call them? From their boats. But hang on a minute. This is saying that Andrew was a disciple of John the Baptist and went and fetched Simon, who became Peter, to come and see Jesus. And later on, and so what's interesting here is that you've got contradictions across Gospels, which shows that each Gospel has its own unique character and story. Also, John the Baptist is the one who sees the dove, the Spirit is sitting like a dove upon Jesus, and says, he is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Did John say that in any of the other Gospels about Jesus? No, it's unique to John. Now, you might be a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that I'm preaching about the inconsistencies across the board between the Gospels. But what I want to emphasize here is each Gospel writer is writing in a context with a particular angle in mind for how they understand Jesus to be God's anointed one. And also how to encourage the people that they're trying to address in understanding how Jesus is the anointed one and what his purpose is. Now, what is also unique to John's Gospel is what he does in the beginning, in the prologue. In the beginning was the Word. Now, when they translate word from Greek, what is the word that they use? Logos. And what is the logos in pre-Socratic philosophy? No. Logos is the divine is, the noun is, the divine source through which all things are made. I am. Sort of, kind of, yeah, actually. And Sophia, wisdom, she is personified as the logos, and she is embodied in Jesus. Now, this is where the philosopher in me comes in. I'm going somewhere, I promise. So for the Synoptic Gospels, they're looking at Jesus as fulfilling being the heir of David, the high priest who will come and purify things, and the Son of Man, the sort of divine figure who comes as God's ambassador. For John, Jesus is the ever-existent divine creative force through which God speaks things into being. And therefore, he's much bigger and much more eternal. And therefore, he is the Lamb of God. He is the Passover lamb that ends it once and for all. A little bit of theological sprinkling in there. But one thing that I really love about this passage are 3 words. Come and see. Come and see. Jesus could have told Andrew when he said, where are you staying? Well, I'm staying over here in Capernaum, so that's where I'm at. He said, come and see. Come on, I'll show you. And what does Andrew do afterwards? He stays there for the day, and then he goes and calls his brother Simon, who comes and sees. And the next couple segments after this, Philip encounters Jesus and follows him, and then invites Nathanael, saying, we have found the Messiah. He's from Nazareth. And of course, Nathanael was like, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And what is his response? Come and see. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you. And he becomes a disciple of Jesus, and so on and so forth. I remember when I was in my catechumenic class at Christ Church Cathedral, Reverend Ann Stevenson was teaching the class, and she pointed to, this is one of the best ways of invitation, is to come and see. One of the things that we do as Episcopalians is we don't tell people what is here or what they have to think or believe or do. We invite them to come and see for themselves what it is we offer. I could tell people till they're blue in the face that the Episcopal Church is great, that St. Anne's is a wonderful place and full of warmth and life and diversity and unity in the midst of all that. But it's a lot better when they're able to come and see for themselves. And that's the hardest part, because you can lead horses to water, but you can't make them drink. You can invite people, and they may not come, but you'll never know until you do. So in this case, what Jesus is exemplifying is, if you want to see for yourself the fulfillment of God's hope and God's love in the world, you got to come and see this to believe it. Stephanie, you've been promoting the open mic night pretty avidly because it's something that you really enjoy. And it's much easier to tell people come and see than it is to try to give them a verbal explanation, isn't it? And so if that's the case, when you tell people about St. Anne's, you say, well, come check it out. Come visit. Come see one Sunday morning. I dare you. Bet you won't. Come on and see. Come and see for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. So, in the midst of all the different things that were being tried to be articulated in these passages, Jesus is revealed once again, because we got the revelation of his divinity, of his messiahship last week in the passage from Luke. I think it was Luke. I don't remember. Nope, Matthew, sorry. I get the synoptics mixed up. But this week we see him as the divine Logos, the one who's going to fundamentally change things for the world. And he invites people to him rather than them inviting him. And so one of the things that we can do, think about, what is it that we want people to come and see here? And second of all, do we invite people to come and see? You may not have much opportunity because most of the people that you may know may already be in church, have their own church, aren't interested in church. But even if it is a Sunday morning, come and see what it is to be part of this community. Come and see for yourself, just as you did. You all have stayed here because you came and saw for yourself and decided that this is a place worth investing your time in. So may we be disciples of Christ in our invitation, in our witness, and in our curiosity, and willingness to see where God is inviting us to come and see things, and how God is asking us to invite others in whatever way makes sense to come and see for themselves what God is doing here and now, and see how our following of Christ leads them into the arms of the love of God. So come and see. Come and see for yourself. Amen.